People in the United States think that Charlie Kirk's passing will spark a second civil war. I do not think this is the case. Charlie was well known, but he did not have a big enough following that would move mountains for him. There are several Republican talking heads pushing for a civil war right now. I do not think many of these people have thought things through. What would be the win condition for a second civil war? The Republicans control most of the government now. You would look kind of silly storming the Capitol that you control. Would a civil war turn into a red state versus blue state type of situation? There are Republicans in blue states and Democrats in red states. In fact, most red states have large cities that are dominated by Democrats. America does not have any state pride left either. At least in the first Civil War, Americans had some state pride. Therefore, this concept of blue states fighting red states does not make much sense to me. It would make much more sense if a civil war broke down into a fight between the countryside and cities. But the bigger question is, who would do the fighting? I doubt Gen Z and Gen Alpha would willingly join in a civil war to fight for Charlie Kirk. I don't think most millennials would fight either. Both sides of the political aisle in the United States want me deleted, so I'm not very motivated to fight in a civil war. I would rather grab some popcorn, my sunglasses, and watch both cults fight each other from the sidelines. It is unlikely that Gen X will do anything, and boomers are too lazy. Even if you could find people to fight in a civil war, then how would they go about doing things? Are they going to knock on houses and ask for political affiliations? I don't see that working when most Americans own arms. If you tried that in my state of Arizona, then you would not last long. Both Democrats and Republicans are heavily armed in this state, so trying this here would be a quick way to meet your maker. I do not think a second civil war is likely in the United States, but I do think it could still happen. It just depends on the catalyst. If something happens to Donald Trump, then I think that could spark a civil war. I also think that Andrew Tate could cause a civil war across multiple continents. Tate has already proven that the younger generations will move mountains for him. In fact, I think he would be a bigger catalyst for a civil war than Donald Trump. Some people might argue that Taylor Swift could be a catalyst, but I don't think a bunch of angry girls could do much. Therefore, I think Donald Trump and Andrew Tate are the only catalysts that could cause a civil war in the United States. Nobody else has a large enough following that can motivate their base. I just don't see a civil war breaking out anytime soon. If a civil war was to break out, then the catalyst would be something that nobody expected. Thanks for listening, and have a fantastic day or night.